Is there hope for a vaccine, or this is yet another mirage? When we sit down, it's time for the conversation. And joining us today to put this into context is Dr. Omu Anzala. Now, the good doctor has a sparkling track record. Let's briefly go through it. He is the Department of Medical Microbiology, Kenya AIDS Vaccine Initiative, School of Medicine, College of Health Sciences, University of Nairobi. And then from 2008 to date, he's the he's the chairman of the Department of Medical Microbiology, College of Health Sciences, University of Nairobi. 2007 to date, he's an associate professor at the same department. From 2002 to 2007, he was a senior lecturer at the Department of Medical Microbiology, College of Health Sciences, University of Nairobi, Kenya. He holds a postdoctoral fellow on molecular immunology group, Institute of Molecular Medicine, Oxford University, and he holds a PhD in Department of Microbiology and Infectious Disease, acquired from University of Manitoba in Canada. Dr. Anzala, thank you for making time.
Thank you very much.
Earlier, we've seen in the course of this month, news broke that there has been sort of a breakthrough with a vaccine from BioNTech and Pfizer. And the world sort of was relieved that there is hope in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic that has brought everything to a standstill, economy and health. However, from your perspective, you know this industry better than anybody else, or this field of study. Is it too early to celebrate, or this vaccine brings real hope?
No. It's not really, early to celebrate, because when we conduct clinical trials, we have certain triggers during the process. So what Pfizer did is that they reached a particular trigger, and that trigger was to do a preliminary analysis. And that preliminary analysis has clearly shown us that indeed what we were expecting that the vaccine would do is exactly what the vaccine is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So really it's not too early to celebrate, because those are triggers, the way we conduct clinical. At every stage, there's a stage you want to look at, because you also don't want to go too far when the vaccine is not showing you any signs that it will actually work, because these clinical trials are fairly very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
For us as scientists, this is very welcome and good news for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, the process of sort of creating, manufacturing, and getting approvals on a vaccine and rolling out in the market takes over 10 years, as we had discussed earlier on. However, this is a process that has only taken 10 months, and they're saying moving forward, they'd like to apply for emergency approval from the FDA to roll out this drug. What's your reading into this condensed process?
Yeah, you see, the discovery of a vaccine does not take 10 years. It depends on the infectious agent you are dealing with. It has taken 100 years to get a malaria vaccine. It's not that work has not been going on, but it is just the intricate nature of malaria parasites that we have been dealing with. We have been looking for an HIV vaccine for now 30 years. We still don't have an HIV vaccine. Again, this tells you the intricate nature of the HIV virus itself. The goodness with COVID, SARS-CoV-2, is that we now know that there are 4 circulating coronaviruses. There's also been SARS-CoV-1 and MERS-CoV, where quite a bit of work had been done to understand the immunology. So what you are seeing now is actually using the knowledge that was created maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, using MERS-CoV as a coronavirus and SARS-CoV-1 as another coronavirus, to bring us very quickly to speed as where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that background information was actually already available. So the process is not really being truncated. What is happening is that a lot of companies went into it. A lot of these constructs were already made and available. So what was going on is actually just to look at SARS-CoV-1, the cause of COVID, and quickly unpack the virus and pick some of the antigens and insert into this available construct. And that's why you have seen that very, very quickly we are talking about a COVID vaccine. The only difference now is that there are some things you can expedite. There are other things you cannot expedite in terms of vaccine research and development. And the things that you cannot really expedite are clinical trials, where you are looking for safety and where you are looking for immune response, and eventually where you are looking for efficacy. And that's the process we are in right now.
Now, Dr. even with vaccines that have been proven to work, particularly the vaccinations that we see young children go through the first 2 years of their lives, there has been hesitation towards these vaccines. And here comes the COVID-19 probable vaccine, where they're saying the efficacy data is at over 90%. How do we ensure that the market reception is positive? Because unlike some of the viruses that children experience, some might experience, some might not, COVID is a sure bet. If you sit next to somebody who has COVID-19, you're highly likely to get infected with the virus. And also, no country can fight COVID in a vacuum. It has to be joint effort. So how do we ensure, should a vaccine come out, it's well received by everyone?
You see, first of all, I've been on record trying to speak up and advise ministry to quickly set up a COVID consortium in Kenya. And this COVID vaccine consortium will actually begin to look at first of all, deal with the vaccine skeptics. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of vaccine skeptics out there. There's also a lot of vaccine hesitancy. And that skepticism and hesitancy come from the fact that people always believe that vaccines are going to cause harm, which is not true, because we know the processes we go through. And one of the things we do in medicine is that do no harm. So there is no way we shall administer a product that we know has major side effects. So phase 1, for example, in clinical trials is looking for safety, not even immune response. And that's what has been going on since these constructs were moved from animal studies to humans around March. They have been trying to establish the safety profile. And so far, what I can tell you, the safety profile has been good. I'm sure the citizens of this country have heard of when there was a halt or a stoppage of one of the clinical trials. That was because there was a trigger, that there was a side effect. When you see a severe side effect, you stop and investigate and see whether that side effect is caused by the vaccine. If not, then the trial proceeds. When you hear that a vaccine has been stopped, that is actually a good position, because it is telling you that they are very attentive to detail, they are looking for safety. It's not a bad thing. That's what we do all the time. So for us, the safety profiles are clear. The immune responses are actually clear. So what we want to deal with is now to sit back and say, who are the vaccine skeptics and why are they skeptical? Where is their hesitancy? And these are the things we need to deal with as a community and address all these things before even the product arrives.
Mm-hmm. Great. Now, yes, if you look at COVID-19, it's a very costly disease. I mean, the Ministry of Health has said NHIF cannot even cut to those bills. But when you look at something like testing, we've been tested before, it goes for about 10,000 shillings. If you're lucky, maybe 6,000 Kenya shillings, which is about $60 to $100. Given the state of the world, many countries are developing countries, Kenya in itself, if that is the cost of treating, then one might only presume that the cost of the vaccine will be higher. So what needs to be done to ensure that everybody can be able to afford the vaccine once it's ready for market rollout?
You know, part of it is that vaccines are expensive in terms of new products coming onto the market, also because they are biologicals, and also because of the processes that you have to go through, logistics, the cold chain. For example, this particular vaccine, they are saying that the cold chain is -70. -70 is not your common fridge that you see around. They are very few, they are very rare, and they only tend to be in research institutions. So what Kenya should be doing now is to put a team together and begin a process of resource mobilization. But as we do resource mobilization, we should look at a bigger consortium and see, can we come together, 3 countries like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, put our resource together? Because when you request for bulk, your prices go, actually go down. So this is actually the time. There are various products. There are like 5 or 6 products that are right on the front line. So we should then be looking at them and asking, which one will be the best product in our country in terms of cold chain, in terms of logistics from where it arrives, to see that this vaccine can reach Lodwar, can reach Moyale, all those areas under cold chain. So all these are things that we should actually be discussing right now. And the human resource that actually will be required. So time is actually now. And the game changer for COVID will be actually affordable and effective COVID vaccine.
Now, you've mentioned the country, and that begs the question, should we get the vaccine? How do you distribute it demographically? Who gets the vaccine first? What region gets priority?
Yes, we've just been thinking and saying, who is at most risk? First of all, we are all at risk. Because if you are breathing and you're alive, you are at risk of getting COVID. So the whole issue now...
Dr. Anzala?
That is, that frontline workers are the highest risk. Could individuals who have comorbidities and those who are elderly at the highest risk? And then we can go in a staged manner like that. Because for one, we know that healthcare workers are at risk because people coming to hospital, COVID is not written on their faces. And we have seen a lot of nurses and doctors dying out of COVID. Most likely they got infected in hospital. We know those who end up dying because of COVID are the elderly and those various with comorbidities, be they adults or children. So for me, that is the way we can actually begin to map out the country and then go risk by risk till eventually we now know how do we then get it to the general public. But that is the discussion we must be having now, not later. And that is my disappointment because I'm not seeing that discussion go, actually going on. I hear people saying, are we going to buy? But you cannot buy before you know your own logistics at home and how you will store, how you will carry out cold chain, who will be the first people, who do you give first, what is the criteria, so that you are not accused of favoring one group vis-a-vis another. Because when it arrives and all these things have not been mapped out, then you'll actually see the problems that we shall get to. And that will again cause delays in terms of moving it to the people who need it the most.
There's something you've spoken about that is very, very paramount, and that's safety data. And there's loads and loads of information with regards to a vaccine like this that people need to go through before the vaccine is even admitted out in the public. What work should be going into sort of acquiring that data before we even purchase the vaccine?
You see, the processes of research and development begins in the lab. When we develop vaccines, we begin with dirty vaccines in the lab. We try them on mice. Then we develop, if it works, we develop better vaccines. Then we try them in non-human primates. If it works, then now we go to good manufacturing practice, where you actually manufacture this vaccine under GMP. And this is the vaccine now that moves to humans. So we must do phase 1s to establish the safety profile. And you cannot go to phase 2 or phase 3 before you have assured the regulators that your vaccine is indeed safe. So when you have seen these products that have moved from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 now, it clearly tells you that phase 1 showed a clearly good safety profile with no major side effects. Maybe pain, a bit of fever, a bit of headache, but those are side effects that we can live with, and that also shows that immunogen is working. Then we go to phase 2 where we look at extended safety and immune response. So now we are beginning to look at whether the vaccine actually elicits the B cells or the T cells or those products that are meant to protect you from infection. So when extended safety is done, the immune response is done, then we move to phase 3. And now phase 3 is efficacy. does a vaccine actually prevent me from getting infected in this matter with COVID? And that's where now Pfizer is. And the preliminary data you saw from Pfizer is actually a phase 3, telling you that phase 1 was good, phase 2 was good, and phase 3 was good. What we are also asking is that these trials also ought to be done in Africa. I've always said that human beings, we are the same, but we are not. We are the same. What is the word? We are similar, but we are not the same.
Exactly.
And immune responses, yes, yeah, we are similar, but we are not the same. And immune responses that we have seen over the years, we tend to see different responses among Caucasians and among Africans, just because of the environment in which we find ourselves. So what we are also yearning is for our government to assist us, maybe get some of these products and also try to understand the safety profiles in our own environment, the immune responses in our own environment, and also efficacy in our own setting. As far as I'm concerned, the only vaccine that is being tested on the African continent is the Oxford vaccine that is now being tested in Kilifi, in Kenya, and in South Africa. Mm-hmm. All these other products, none of them are actually being tested on the African continent, mm-hmm. which is actually unfair. Yeah, because eventually we shall need to use those vaccines without knowing the safety profile in our own setting and the immune responses in our own setting, mm-hmm. as well as efficacy in our own setting.
Mm-hmm. And what follows next now for the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine? What comes next for it, and even for the Oxford vaccine that's being tested in Kilifi and in South Africa?
No, what comes next is that these were very good preliminary data. So the phase 3 trial will continue completely. There'll be another trigger where they will again now do another second preliminary, but with a bigger sample size, which again will give us, I'm sure, good data. But now the question is, should we authorize the use of this vaccine at this juncture, or do we wait a little and wait for the second trigger where they'll have a bigger sample size and maybe tell us does the efficacy still hold, and does the safety profile still hold?
Okay.
And if that is the case, maybe at that point in time. But for me, this is a very good way forward, because I know vaccines work, and when they work, they actually prevent diseases and they save lives. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of the importance of vaccine, I mean, the world is currently at a very shaky place. Nobody knows what the virus is going to bring tomorrow. We are seeing second waves of infections in Kenya, a resurgence of COVID-19 cases, and lockdowns are coming back on. The health of the globe is in jeopardy. Why do we need a vaccine now more than ever, or before the disease progresses?
You see, the point is that SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2 and COVID has been with us now 11 months.
Yes.
As far as we are concerned, all the drugs we have thrown at it have proved not to be effective. Even the hydroxychloroquine, the antiviral drugs, all these things have not proved effective. People are dying. We also don't know whether those who are infected and recover are still susceptible to reinfection. All that we know is that an effective vaccine will actually prevent most of us from either getting infected or developing severe disease. And that's exactly what we want to be able to do with a vaccine. We don't want to wait till you are sick to go to hospital. What you're saying, a vaccine then prevents you from two things. Either if you get sick, then you may not need hospitalization, or it stops you totally from getting COVID. And that is a game changer. For example, Kenya and Africa as a whole was declared polio-free 2 months ago. And I'm sure you know the effects of polio. You know, the paralysis and all the other things that come with that. So what will change? Most of us getting infected. Some of us end up dying. Will actually an effective and affordable COVID vaccine.
Now, Dr. Ari, as we come to a conclusion, yesterday when the CS Health was giving the daily press briefing, he slightly came under fire because either he doesn't understand the vaccine well and the data out there, or two, he sounded like he was overlooking the importance of the vaccine. Why does the Ministry of Health need to put its house in order for the well-being of this country with regards to a vaccine out there in the market?
No. Sorry about that. No, the Ministry of, I've been working with the Ministry of Health on COVID. What I can tell you, the Ministry of Health is very committed to ensuring that we work together and ensure that the country as a whole breaks, the cycle of infection. We must observe all the recommendations that have been put there by the Ministry of Health, and definitely we are all waiting for an affordable and effective vaccine. So we shall work with the ministry to ensure that when the vaccine is available, the vaccine is made available to all of us in this country. So I'm not really worried about the ministry. I've been working with them, and I know that they are looking at all parameters in terms of ensuring that as we do the non-pharmaceutical interventions, a biological solution will actually be the best way, and that biological solution will be the vaccine. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Anzala. What a way to have a conversation and what a way to end it. Thank you for making time.
Thank you, and bye-bye for now.
Okay. When we come back, Vincent Odhiambo will be taking you through social media what you have to say about the probable vaccine. Would you be, would you be in a position to take it? Would you be open enough to be injected with a shot of a vaccine that has been developed within 10 months? Would you pay premium cost for that vaccine? Vincent will be coming back to tell us all you have to say on social media on Social Watch.